All right, so Pika 2.2 is out, and so far, Rosh and we've struggled a little bit getting some good results from it. But I decided to really dig in and see what I can do to get some really good results, and I was able to get some pretty big wins, including this video I'm sharing right now. So one of the big advantages with Pika 2.2 is that it includes Pikaframe, which is one of Pika's specialty, kind of effects that they do. So typically before, it was all these special effects like Pikaframe, Pika swaps or anything were only available on the turbo version. So now that the 2.2, which is their full mode of processing, is allowing this Pika frame, I think that's really the direction where we can get some wins with Pika 2.2. And today I want to share with you some of the advice, whether it's in prompting or some of the imagery that I put into it to get this to work. So essentially Pika frames, what they do is you upload two images and it then makes a video or story out of these two images. So some of the other advantages with this newest update is that you can get up to 10-second clips, and also you can get output in full 1080, where sometimes some of the outputs was a little lower resolution. So I was able to get some wins. So today, I want to share some of my three biggest wins. I want to share a couple fails that I had as well, and just some of the things that you see that get repeated in Pika 2.2 with different ways that it tries to process through these videos. So first of all, here's a test one where I didn't really add any fancy prompt. I kind of said, hey, bring to life, and it did a really good job. And then I want to show you what happens when I actually gave it a little extra prompting. It actually got a little too confused. So one of the things that Rosh and I noticed with Pika 2.2 is that when it is creating its own videos, it took a step back from realism and it became a bit animated looking. And I found that when I over prompted and gave too much direction for this Pika frames matching the two images, that it was then starting to get into that world of looking like it's adding some animations and stuff to kind of take away from the realism. So what I did find is the most simple prompts are actually working really well. My classic prompt of bring to life is working really well. So just to share some of these wins. So here, this one, I created two images on Leonardo. So Leonardo's great because once you see an image that you like, you can click on it and then kind of go down that rabbit hole and create more images just like this. So I was able to do that and uploaded them into Pika and was able to have a little bit of a win there. And so I want to show the other one where I gave it a larger prompt, said show, the figure turning towards the camera and walking slowly. And you know what? It focused too much on the person. And if you look, the background between the two images changes, boom, right away, right there. There's no subtle transition to that. So, but ultimately, the realism of the rain on the streets and the reflections and everything looks great. The motion of the figure is pretty good, I would say. The hands, they look natural. The swinging of the arm as they're walking. So even though this wasn't as good as my other example, it's still pretty good altogether. So, to look back at that first example again, look at the background, how it's transitions nice and smoothly from one to the other. And I think the person does a little better job walking. It looks pretty real. I would use the full 4-second clip. So I want to mention that really quickly now. I know that with Pika 2.2, I mentioned earlier that you can get up to a full 10 seconds. Now, one of the things that I've noticed is the longer you give it, the more kind of hallucinations and different things that are non-congruent that'll pop up. So if you give it less time, like 3 or 4 seconds instead of the full 10, sometimes you can get this imagery to look much more real, much more fluid, and it also costs less credits. So, a little bit of a hack, a little win there. So, all right, I want to keep on moving down through some wins. Here's some previous imagery I did from another music video where it started as this phoenix, and I said, make the phoenix wings and turn into this burning tree. And it's really good, looks great, but I do want to I want to point out this kind of donut explosion effect. This is something Pika 2.2 has done a good amount, and I'm going to point out in some other ways where it kind of didn't work. In this image, I think it certainly works because it kind of fits the mystical theme of this phoenix blowing up into a circle, into this burning tree. But altogether, I would use almost every bit of, and I did a full 6-second clip on this one. I would use every bit of this one. So a pretty good win. All right, now getting into some of the imagery from the music video I've been working on. There's the abstract of time and, time running out or time stopping. So I wanted to do some hourglass type imagery. I thought this one looked really cool. So I did my classic prompt of bring to life, where the first image was just this, this person with a book outside of the hourglass. And then the last image is this full, mystical mystical hourglass. So I would say this is pretty much a win. This one looks great. Now there's a couple moments in between where it looks a little funny transitioning, but something to keep in mind is, say the purpose that I'm going to use this for is going to be a music video. And oftentimes when these types of clips are put into a music video, you really only see these clips for like 1 or 2 seconds at a time. So when you're looking at these outputs that you get from Pikaframes, one thing to put in perspective is, say if you get a 5 or 6 second output, every second of that output doesn't have to be kept. If you have really good 2 seconds of it that you can use and put into your music video, that's a win. So to get it, to be a full 5 or 6 one that looks absolutely perfect, 5 or 6 seconds that looks absolutely perfect, it's going to be kind of tough. So, all right, as I keep going down some of these examples, they're going to go more from win category to fail category. So I want to show, some examples of this. So here's another one where, kind of the hourglass was a little funny looking and the cone kind of going up with the sand, but there are seconds in here that are usable from like right now to now. That looks great. So, a little bit of a win and a little bit of a fail on that one. This one right here, where it starts like this, it's this tormented kind of person that ends up, kind of almost dealing with these kind of demons underground. I thought this one looks great. I think it's a little funny when he ends up going into the suit. So I might, out of the 6 seconds of this, use the first, say, 3 in the music video just to kind of show things moving around in this kind of torment. So I thought this one looked really cool, and just his kind of motion that they added. I said bring to life. I didn't say make it look tormented, but the original image, the person looked tormented, so it kind of ran with it. And I like Pika's brain for that. All right, so going a little more. So this was a little more of like a fail where it kind of seemed a little funny with the transition. But there are 2-second bits of this where, like, say that sand falling through and just, circling around, I can cut it right before, right about now, where that person just shows up, and I have a pretty good 2 or 3 second usable clip here. So I think that looks great. Keep moving down. So this is where we start to get into the animation, and this is where kind of I put in the prompt, show the person leaving the hourglass. And if you look, now that kind of looks kind of like a fake kind of ghost. That person pops into a book. We're making Pika kind of think a little too much, and it's getting into that world of animation. So not quite what I was looking for here on this one. So again, as I said, we're kind of moving down the list. So all right, here, this one was certainly a fail. So I wanted him to be running and jumping off the cliff. I had an image of him going towards the cliff, and then the second image was him kind of up, and it interpreted it as them like flying upwards. So that's kind of unnatural and weird looking. But maybe I can do some things with this and use little clips, but I just don't like the way his arms moved when he ran and the way his coat jacket kind of flipped up. It just didn't really look like it was natural in the motion on that one. And then last one here, I had, the characters were unfortunately facing different directions. So it started with this guy facing to the right, and then this last guy's facing to the left, and they kind of morph into each other. But it doesn't mean that I can't use the first 3 seconds and stop right here and use that as a part of the video. And then also this guy kind of digging underground, I can use that too. So, it's all about the output that you get and how you're going to use it. Not every one of these clips you need to use all 6 seconds of it, but it's a very cool. It's a powerful platform for being able to add 2 images together and kind of tell a story. So I want to go to some other of my hacks on this. So say, for example, in Grok, when you get an output, it'll always give you a couple images. And what I've had some success with here so far is to grab both of these images and use them for the Pika frame, because they're supposed to be different but similar. And like, say, for example, this one right here, I did the first image was this person with the umbrella, and then the second image was the person with the umbrella walking towards. I said, all right, cool. Both of these backgrounds are similarly lit. They're kind of in a street, corridor that's wet and raining at night. This is perfect to tell a story. And this was a great example. So I just downloaded both of these, put it into Pika Swap, and had it do its thing. So you can kind of see just some of the examples, some of the wins and fails. Now, one last thing, with this swirling effect that pops up here with this donut. So some of the fails I had earlier with Pika, that came in all the time. So it's like this one right here, boom, all of a sudden was this like odd donut type swirl thing that came in, and it just doesn't look natural. And it again happened here. So I think that's a big time tendency when I was trying to kind of tell it too much for my prompting with it. And it doesn't look natural. I don't see any way I can naturally use this in like a music video or anything like that. So little bit odd there with Pika, but there's workarounds, and that's why we're trying to give this information. And we talk. Rosh and I talk every Monday. We have the Creative AI Show. We talk about 20, 30 minutes, and it's on all the popular podcast streaming platforms. Also on this YouTube channel that you're watching right now. And we're two creative guys talking AI. And keep like and subscribe and follow us for more advice on how we can elevate the creative by using our experience with these AI programs. So we'll talk to you soon.